Hi, folks. With Tacitus today. Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. I just had an online appointment or meeting cancelled, so I'll have the opportunity here to pester my listeners for another video. You may even get two, actually. The subject of this essay, and what I'd like to talk about, is the behaviour of female executives, business executives. Now, there may be a small handful of female executives that get their positions and their promotions and so on the basis of merit and competence and accomplishment, but be very, very few. Not every man gets the senior positions from that either, by the way. But I've had the opportunity to based on the work that we sometimes do, we go over the communications between male executives, and we go over the communications between female executives. And the purpose here is to determine what work's been done in a particular area, and then complete that work, or advise to the board that they jettison the work. So we don't get called into this type of thing all the time. And by the way, it tends to be a byproduct of other work we're doing rather than the central focus. But on this occasion, and I touched on this before some weeks ago, there are three C-level female executives. The Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Operations Officer, and I think acting CEO, or acting deputy CEO, something like. Anyway, there's three of them. They're between sort of early 40s and early 50s. I hadn't met them all when I did the last bit about this, but I have now. None of them are even remotely qualified to be in the roles they're in, not even remotely, not minimally qualified. Now, one of them, who looks like she's on the verge of a nervous fucking breakdown, by the way, and is popping all sorts of pills and Prozac and meds to keep going. She's the chief marketing officer. Actually does have some, but she was once a sign writer years ago, and on the basis of this, they've given her the marketing, not just a job in marketing or a junior in the marketing department or even a sign writer's job. They go, can you draw signs or write signs? You're the chief marketing officer. And the chief CEO, acting CEO, her only employment she's had was as some junior flunky in a government department, a public service department. Another one was a kindergarten teacher for a while. Her family's reasonably well-to-do, so she doesn't have to work. She doesn't want to, but she's like the chief operations officer. And so that's the three. Now, they've been doing certain things that the board of director and some other outside players, the major investors, want reviewed, and that's where sort of we came in. So all their for about 12 months, all their emails and texts and so on were supplied to us to review, to see, assess legal liabilities, other things like that. And it was quite a big job to sift through it. I was going to delegate this and go, no, either the guys can do it, or we'll get a few people in to do it. But when I just saw a few of the communications, I thought, well, I'll have a closer look at this. I didn't know how bad it was. This is sort of gives you an inside window into how women executives behave. From the outside, you wouldn't see it, even internally, unless you had access to these email chains and texts, and you wouldn't see how they behave. Now, you'd think at that level and the sort of bucks that these women are on, that because they're all well paid, they're all in the sort of the $250,000 a year type range, or more. More by the time you add in all the benefits and the expenses and things. So for that sort of money, you can get some pretty top drawer talent. People with real capabilities, accomplishments, achievements, a whole lot of things. I mean, you could really get some top flight folks at that sort of salary level, that sort of income level. But anyway, they've got these women who, again, if you sort of looked at one is probably maybe, I don't know, maybe she could be an office manager in a small office out in the outer suburbs. Maybe that would be the height of her capability. The other chick's, the marketing chief marketing officer, again, maybe a sign writer, maybe doing a bit of social media stuff. That would be her capability. The other one, she was the most solid and sensible of the one, but had the least business expertise and is quite lazy, really, at the end of the day. So none of them are even minimally, like if you set a minimal bar for the sort of people that should be in these jobs, they don't even meet that minimal bar. Now, by the same time, roughly at the same time, we're also doing another gig where we were just looking at the communications of male executives in approximately the same age range and similar levels of seniority. So I had the opportunity to compare the two. But when I saw this is how it goes. This is the price you pay as a community, as a company, as a business. This is the price you pay for putting DEI, affirmative action, women, gender quotas, and all this sort of stuff. This is the price you pay. And I've got some of the communications here, but I'll go through. I was horrified. I was looking at that. You got to be. Are these 5-year-old children or what? Are they? They can't be women in their 40s and 50s, and these senior roles getting this. So they can't be not behaving like this. Has some madness afflicted them or something? And I'm looking at this aghast. So one woman says, I've got a bit of, so they've got a meeting later. So I've got a bit of a headache, so I can't concentrate. So I just went home early. I'm sure you'll all understand. Now you'd think somebody would come. I wouldn't put up with that. So I'd come back. So she's gone. And then while she's off or when she gets home or something, she then sends a text. So, but instead of berating her or saying, well, that's not good enough, the meeting was called, you'll attend the fucking meeting. If you want this sort of job, this sort of seniority and these sort of bucks, then you have to do the job. You just can't opt out whenever the fuck you feel like it. I'd sort of come at it from that angle if I was the CEO, but instead they validate her. Oh, it must be terrible for you. I know I had a migraine yesterday or last week, and that I'm still haven't fully recovered from that. So you get well, and hugs and kisses from all of us. Now that again, these are all women here. Now what? What? Are you children? Are you school children? And then it goes on for these women to actually have a meeting with, and sometimes there are other people involved as well as them. For them to have a meeting and have an agenda and have an agreed agenda, this sort of thing is almost impossible, because that they collectively take the view that if they tie themselves down to a benchmark of performance, which could be attending a meeting at a certain time, it could be the agenda for the meeting, it could be what you agree to in the meeting and have that minuted, and the decisions you're going to make and what you're going to do and who's going to be responsible for what, this sort of thing. They're like women, they're clearly terrified of that. The idea of being measured, evaluated, and judged terrifies them, as it does most women, by the way. So they've got these little girly, childlike, schoolgirly doll's house type devices that they use, behavioral devices they use to try and avoid it. Now, all of them are actually trying to avoid it, but none of them sort of want to be held accountable for that avoidance even. So now there's another meeting. My chicken, my cat's close to having kittens soon. So I can't come in today because I just want to watch out for the cat. What? Again, it wouldn't matter if this person was a volunteer helper at an NGO or something, and they were giving a day's notice or a couple of days' notice, and you go, who cares? Or if they were a very junior employee, maybe casual or hours, they're not a full-time employee that everyone else is depending on. But this is a C-level, highly paid executive with responsibilities. and she just arbitrarily decides on the same day that the meeting's due, by the way. She just arbitrarily decides, no, my cat and my kittens are, so I have to, that's more important. I have to stay at home here. Okay. Another one said, oh, my daughter's broken up with her boyfriend and she's upset, so I don't want to leave her while she's in this upset state. And those sorts of things. What was another one? Another one that they want to have their chickens. They've got certain eggs they want to hatch, to have hatchlings and have them grow up to be chooks and chickens, and so they chooks the Australian slang for chicken, by the way. They're not going to come with the meeting, or another trick they do is that they say, oh, I can't possibly come in today because I'm just not feeling well, or again, my daughter's boyfriend this, or I haven't seen my daughter for a while and she's coming in today from interstate or overseas, and so I want to be there to greet her, and so can we change the meeting to be 6 o'clock tonight? And the others say, no, they can't. And another one's saying, oh, well, I had a big argument with my boyfriend, or and it looks like we might break up, so I can't come in today, or I can't do anything. I won't be able to do anything in a few days because I'm so stressed. The headache one is used just universally. Oh, I think I've got a migraine coming on. Or another one was that she couldn't read the agenda, and it's a torturous process for those three to even get an agenda together. I can't read the agenda because I'm still recovering from that migraine last week, so I just can't read it. What? What do you mean you can't read? At no stage do they take responsibility for what needs to be done, the obligations they have as C-level officers, but they don't take responsibility for the decisions they're making. What, you decide you've got a headache 5 minutes before the meeting starts, or I know I said I'd do the agenda, but I just forgot because I had so much else on, and my best friend's dog died, and so I didn't really have time to do it. What, your best friend's dog died? That means yeah. So any excuse to avoid responsibility. Other ones, and again, these are women with older parents in their 70s or 80s or something. My parents, my father hurt his back while he was mowing the lawn, and so I went over to just talk to him and make sure he was okay. So I didn't have time to do. I couldn't come to the meeting, or didn't have time to do this, that, and the next thing. So consequently, very little is getting done in this place. In fact, I would say almost nothing is getting done. Also, what these women doing, they love getting caught up in ridiculous minutiae, utterly irrelevant minutiae. I noticed the front of the building. I don't think the sign is completely straight, and I'm just wondering what we can do about that. Can we talk about this and discuss it? So they seem to have plenty of time available to talk about utter irrelevancies. Little Susie. I noticed little Susie was a little concerned, and it may be that she's being oppressed by her male partner, and I think we should have a meeting about making sure little Susie has access to information about evil male oppressor, patriarchy, misogynists, and I think we should have so when it's things like that, whether the sign on the building is straight, or whether or not little Susie might be some sort of victim of domestic violence or domestic bullying, and then they suddenly they've got plenty of time. Suddenly they can attend the meetings, whether they be physically in the office or online, and so those sorts of things they've got plenty of time for, the irrelevancies. I've noticed that in the creche playing area that the crayons, coloured crayons, for kids to draw on. I've noticed that the coloured crayons only have red, blue, and green, and I think we should have all the colours of the rainbow there. Don't you? Oh yes, I'll be in contact with the crayon supplier, and I think we should put that on the agenda for the meeting. They have the meeting, but all they discuss is the crayons. They don't discuss any of the things that are serious about the suppliers, about the cash flow, about the training of the staff for this, that, and no, fuck that. Let's just talk about the crayons in the creche. There's a staff amenities room, an employee amenities room where employees can have a cup of coffee or tea and breakfast, or there's bits and pieces in there. So that I've noticed that the muffins or the bagels. I had a look and I couldn't see that they have blueberry flavour there, and blueberry I know is my favourite, and also some of the people there, and I think we should act on this, that there wasn't any blueberry muffins or bagels in this sort of thing. So they fixate on utter irrelevant. Who gives a fuck whether there's blueberry muffins there? Now, needless to say that the company, the business is going off in the trouble. They're not addressing any of the important issues. The staff turnover is quite high because issues that need to be addressed aren't getting addressed. But they explain these things away and they characterise and frame it in a way that they're not responsible, and it's just that person is a troublemaker. And so a male employee was high, and they're very concerned that maybe he might be a misogynist. Has he done anything? Well, no, he hasn't, but he might be a closet misogynist. He might be hiding his misogyny, and so on and so forth. So again, behaving like children in a sandpit, in a doll's house. And it's not just an issue that they're unqualified or anything like that. Why would women of that age behave that way? That was the bigger issue, I thought. Okay, sure, unqualified, people have been put in the roles that shouldn't have happened. There's a bit of affirmative action and gender equity program, all that sort of thing. So I get that. And they're not even minimally qualified, as I mentioned earlier. But why would women between the age of early 40s and early 50s behave like juvenile teenagers or kids in a sandpit or playing with a doll's house? They don't see that they're doing anything wrong. They don't see the problem with it. This not coming to meetings. Oh, I've got a headache. I can't read the agenda, or I couldn't. Thanks for sending me that information about so and so, but I couldn't read it. I just wasn't feeling well. My daughter broke up with her boyfriend. No acceptance of responsibility, no concept of obligation to either the tasks to be performed or other people. And yet I don't find this attitude or this situation as strange. Went at a meeting a week or so ago, and they were hiring. They mentioned they were hiring a new VP, an executive vice president of strategy. And when I asked what this person would do, they ummed and ahed and hemmed and hawed. And so I thought, okay, maybe it's just a token appointment of some sort. But it was advertised on the job, but one of the better paid jobs around in Australia, actually, at the time. So I thought, okay, well, maybe they want a heavy hitter who's going to do serious things. So it was a company that delivers remediation and repair type services. I guess you classify them that. Quite a big company. There'd be over 1,000 employees, and which in Australia is a decent sized organisation. So they anyway they got this executive vice president of strategy, and it was a chick in her early 30s, and she had some sociology degree, and then went straight to work for the public service in the Department of Unemployment, and she was there for 10 years as I don't know, just some junior team leader, from what I can determine. And then from there, they hired her straight into this executive vice president job. Now, when I inquired about how did you hire this person, they didn't seem to want to talk about it. We haven't got time Billy Bob, we have to go into a meeting. And so they brushed me off on this. But here's this. Now, somebody like that wouldn't have applied for that. If you're a junior team leader in a public service department and you see a job in a private business, private company, there's, executive vice president of strategy, you wouldn't even apply for something like that. It's so far out of your scope and range of understanding of the world and anything else that you wouldn't even apply for it. But somehow this chick, this totally unqualified chick, gets this, all she's ever been as a junior public servant, gets this job in a private company which pays very well. Be pushing $400,000 a year. I doubt she was even getting a quarter of that, which she wouldn't have been. So she's increased her income by 4 to 5 times. But so how did they do it? What was it? This is clearly a setup here. There's something was going on that shoehorned her into that job. Now, I don't know what it was, but so I spoke to her and thinking, well, maybe she's a closet genius. I spoke to her. She's a fucking moron. And sounds and acts and behaves like a public servant. Responsibility avoidance is the only skill she knows. And it's very similar to how these C-level, chief marketing officer, chief operations officer chicks were behaving. Now, when I look at men executives, a much higher proportion of men executives have earned their position, especially if they're straight white males, have earned their position. They've got the credentials, they've got the qualifications. They're much more focused on things. And so when they hand out an agenda, everybody reads it, the comments come back. Yeah, thanks, Billy Bob, I got that. Great agenda. Looking forward to the meeting tomorrow. Everyone turns up. They turn up on time. They've all read the agenda beforehand. They agree with the minutes and sign them off. It's a really focused. Their energy is getting the job done, getting the facts on the table, acting on those facts, and so on. It completely and totally different from the way the women. You couldn't get a wider chasm of difference between the two. But there it is, C-level executives on big bucks. Oh no, I can't come to the meeting. My daughter's broken up with her boyfriend. Fuck me. You've been with Tassos today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.